Um, I'm Olivia Wayne, and welcome to Live in the Moment. This is a series dedicated to living life to the fullest. Now, that's not always easy, especially after the year that 2020 threw up. But there is always something we can do or something we can try to shift our mindset and outlook to help remember that life is good and living it to the fullest is something within our control. I've invited a number of brilliant, motivated, inspiring people to try to ascertain and learn what they do to keep themselves happy, positive, and living in the moment. Now, I've wanted to talk to today's guest since the idea for Live in the Moment came to fruition. Jules Von Hep started out as the king of tanning, but through his charm, compassion, and empathy has become the go-to for so many on body positivity, self-love, and ultimately confidence. What started out as transforming celebrities' skin tone to make them look the healthiest, most vibrant versions of themselves has evolved into creating a self-tanning brand that anyone can use at home to achieve a golden flawless result. But Jules, to me, embodies living life to the fullest and being in the moment. And whether he is chatting away on his own podcast, on Insta stories, doing his hilarious What You're Having for Tea series, or generally bringing pure, unbridled joy, humor, and light to his followers and fans. Jules, I'm so thrilled to chat to you and get into the way you live in the moment. But first up, how are you?
I am. Do you know, I was going to be like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Actually, today, and I always think it's super important to be honest about how we're feeling whenever somebody says, how are you? I'm having such an imposter syndrome week this week. And I'm very open about mental health and I'm always really open about how I'm feeling. But this week is, I don't know what it is. I don't know where the moon is in the sky and what it's doing to me. But it is just one of those weeks where I'm like, oh, next week will be a better week.
So that's an imposter syndrome rather than it's just you. In what space is that you feel an imposter, if you know what I mean? Like, is it in a career space or just in your body or what?
It's in I think it's a career space. I think there's self-sabotaging going on, but I think it's never in my body. I think that battle, I'm very open about my battle with body confidence and body positivity on Instagram, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But I think it's such an easy answer to give to anyone, like, oh, I'm great, I'm fine. And actually,
Yeah.
like let's be honest, like it's okay to not be okay. That's totally fine.
Okay, so this is actually a perfect way to jump straight in. You're not feeling your best, most confident, positive self. So, what practical thing could you do, would you do, have you done today, will you do afterwards to try and shift that to get back?
So I think the most important thing that I do is be kind to myself. There was so much nastiness in the past, and I talk about this a lot, where there was never a battle with anybody else. It was always a battle with myself. And actually going, no, if you were sat with yourself as a person, you wouldn't say these things. So be nice to yourself. So today I've literally just been listening to so much Debussy and piano music and classical music. And I'm like, let's just be calm. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go for a walk and I'll just change the way, like, just change the moment, get loads of fresh air. But I think that's super important to do, to be kind to yourself.
That is a really hard thing to do. As you say, we're probably the cruelest individuals to ourselves. Like, you would never even dare think it of someone else, how you are to yourself. So, in your past, that was obviously a big battle. I mean, what steps did you take to overcome that in a real, literal, practical sense? Like, how did you stop a thought, catch it, and kind of tell yourself off about it?
I think through my 20s was, as it is for most people, a time where there is so much self discovery. But my 20s were about overcoming eating disorders, about overcoming suicidal thoughts, about really dealing with quite full on stuff for a young adult to deal with. Um, and I had to just be practical about what I was going through. And things that I would often think about were, in the grand scheme of things, in the whole start to finish in my entire life, what is this moment that I'm feeling right now? Is this a significant moment in my life? And is this going to trigger change? Or is this something that I can manage and work through? I think there's just a lot that we have to go through in life. And I think when you start to realize, okay, is this going to be huge? Is this going to be monumental? Is this going to change my existence? Yes or no? Then you can start compartmentalizing and dealing with issues and dealing with problems. I think that's definitely how I started to do it. If you're in terms of a checkbox, I would say, when I die, am I going to think about this moment? Probably not. If I'm no longer on this planet, is anybody going to talk about this moment? Probably not. Am I going to think about this moment next week? Probably not. And so I just work back and go,
Yeah.
okay, let's take a massive chill pill. I actually find that sidestepping out of the moment is it's such a simple trick to do and such a simple thing to navigate, but people don't talk about it enough. There's lots of talk, and if you listen to self-help podcasts or anything about boosting yourself, people will say, oh, you can fall into it. You can just fall straight down into it and feel all the emotions and go down the rabbit hole. I'm a bit of a, well, hang on. What if I just step out onto this ledge here and I just stand here for 5 minutes and take a big old breath and then think, okay, where am I going next? And I think it all relates back to being kind to yourself. It all relates back to being aware, being self-aware of how you're feeling, how others are feeling, and how am I going to navigate this, and where is this actually ultimately going to take me? I think something that I talk a lot about online is being optimistic and being an optimist. And
Were you always, or have you trained yourself to be that?
I think I was an optimistic person until early teens, and I think I rediscovered optimism about in the age of 21. And I think that I really boiled it down to just black and white physics. For every negative, there's a positive. And for every positive, there's a negative. So which path are you going to choose? Because ultimately, it's the same scenario, but the real issue is how I'm looking at it. Because what is your reality is not my reality. And what the reality is, if I choose the pessimistic view versus the optimistic view, well, the optimistic view will always win. And I started to really study positivity and happiness just from listening to other people. And really, gratitude and positivity really does have a huge effect on how happy we are as individuals. So for me, it was just well, why wouldn't I take that route? It's going to make my life loads more fun.
Like a very simplistic but like clear, obvious choice, which is not simple or clear when you're so in it. It feels like
No,
the hardest decision or viewpoint to have. But when you say it,
exactly.
it feels like, duh, how obvious, but it's not always so obvious, is it?
Because sometimes when you're in a moment and you're living in that moment, the moment can feel just so foggy. It can feel like you're in woods and you can't see a way out.
You mentioned battling suicidal thoughts, which,
Yeah.
you know, makes someone like catch their breath, like, what? You were that place, but that's a very foggy, murky place to be in to
Mm,
try and get out, I imagine.
mm.
Did it, and so, it's one thing to be like, I'm financially struggling, how do I get out? Be calm, be practical. But when you feel so far gone, potentially, how do you get that clarity and see the positives and work hard to do that? And
I
what did you
think for me, there was no light switch that came on and was like, here you are, you're going to feel better. It took a long time. And I've only really been able to open up about being in that suicidal place within the last year.
Wow, thank
I
you
was,
for sharing it, by the way, because
no,
I
no.
imagine that is a big, big thing to outpour.
I think when you are in a position where you have platforms and a voice, and something that I always try and be is be the role model that was just not available for me when I needed it the most.
Mm.
And at that time, I was 18 and I just felt really lonely and confused, and it just going down a path that I shouldn't have been going down. And when I went to university, I had this huge change in life, and I think change brought in such positivity that actually everything around me started to open up, and I started to see life in a completely different way. I think that change is something that Brené Brown says, or well, she quotes somebody who says this: change is actually the most constant thing in life. And so change is something that you shouldn't fear, you should just embrace. But many
Yeah.
people don't embrace fear and embrace change. So I think for me, getting myself out of that was embracing change, was welcoming newness, was
Mm.
exploring my self identity and who I wanted to be. And it was about being open with myself. I think, you know, it's so easy to keep feelings and emotions pushed down and pushed to the back, and to smile at the front and to say everything's great. But if it's not okay, I wish I'd have known this sooner. It's so fine to talk about it. It's so fine to talk about it. And actually, that's something that really helps me on my own mental health journey, opening up, being honest, speaking with my followers about it and saying, it's all good, babe. We're all on the journey. But something that really did help me, and I practice this a lot if I'm ever feeling that fog, if I'm
Sorry.
if I'm ever having one of those days where I'm just feeling not quite right, I think trying to visualize your life at this very moment and look down on it and say, okay, what is going on? Where are the moving parts around you? Is something not making you feel good? Is something making you feel good? Well, let's keep doing the things that make you feel good. And always remember that a good night's sleep and tomorrow is a fresh start. And I think that can always be underestimated. You know, if you have an argument with somebody, have a sleep. If you're not feeling quite right, just have a sleep and wake up and start
Exactly.
again. It's
Absolutely right.
okay.
They do. Yeah, sleep. And yes, I guess remembering the earth keeps spinning. The sun will rise, the sun will set, and we can go again and try again, not to beat yourself up. It's great advice. You mentioned put on your classical music. And I know I've seen on your Instagram you love dance, like you film yourself like dad dancing, whatever. It's hilarious but joyful, like
I
to
wouldn't
watch.
say it's dad
Sorry,
dancing. I would
sorry.
say it was
No,
intricate artistic movement.
but it brings joy to watch. So I can only imagine what it brings to do and just like let the endorphins out. Um, and so music, is that a big feature in your life? Is that something that is integral to your well-being?
Huge. I mean, I played classical music as a kid from the age of 5 to 18.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was trained in beats and rhythm and, you know, all percussion, everything. Um, but for me, music is complete escapism. It is an amazing tool to be able to trigger daydreaming, but also trigger emotions. It's listening to something can trigger the senses in such a way, like you remember songs that you might have had heartbreak to, or you remember songs that are they are just uplift you, they fill you with so much happiness. Like one of my favorite songs is Elton John, Are You Ready for Love? And I just remember being so drunk at the age of 16 on the back of this bus going into Nottingham to go clubbing with my friends, and I just felt so free at that time. And I think it triggers happy memories. There are also memories from festivals, from being together, from embracing other people's company. And I think
Especially
that,
right now, that's essential to remember it's
yes,
there and it was there
yeah,
and it will be there again.
it's coming back. And I have a playlist on my Spotify that's just called Let's Do This. And it's whatever I listen to. Like, I had to present to Sephora this week, and I was so nervous about doing it to 60 people from Sephora in America. And, you know, they're really important people. And I was like, I just need half an hour and my Let's Do This playlist, and I need to just bop around this room so that I'll do the best presentation I'll do.
And
And I
did you
think,
nail it? I bet you did.
oh, I absolutely smashed it. But I think it's important to do these little things, to do these things that are going to make you feel great.
So that actually prompted a really big question. I'm so sorry, there seems to be drilling work behind me, which is awesome.
I thought I was like, "Are you near the shipping docks?" I was like,
It does feel a bit like that. It's quite unfortunate that this is happening today, but I'm just gonna power through. Wow, I thought my mum had a bad tummy, but no, good. Um, with the dancing and the music, and why don't more people do it? Like, it's so easy. Why don't I, when I'm in a real mood, just put it on? It's right there. Like, it's almost like there's a resistance to wanting to change your frame of mind sometimes, like to give in and go with it, you know?
Because
So
I think there is the automated self-response of saying, "I'm fine," and just carrying on. And actually, that carrying on is not gonna do what you need it to do. I think accepting that I'm just in a really bad mood, or I need a confidence boost, or I just want to feel better, and just whack those tunes on. That I say to my audience online about body confidence and self love towards your body. There just is this magical feeling when you dance in your underwear alone in your bedroom with nobody watching. You've got amazing tunes on, it's all wobbling about, there's nipples hitting ears. Who cares? It is such a great electrifying feeling, and being free to the sound of that music is that's an incredible thing. That it's an incredible moment that we're allowed to experience during life, and we should be doing that as much as we can. um, so I think it's just telling yourself. I think people forget how good music makes you feel. So if
I
you are in that moment, just go, hang on a minute. And that's why I have the playlist. Just bob it on. Oof, there we go.
and, like, put on the cheesy stuff that you know you wouldn't be caught dead singing out loud, but just go for it if you really want to. Would
Yes.
you be caught dead? Just enjoy it, who actually cares? Um,
Celine Dion, that's all I'm gonna say.
no, but actually Elton John for me is a real it brings all the feels. Literally, I could be sobbing and then rocking at the same time. It's bizarre, but great. Um, okay, so music absolutely for you gets you back right in the moment and in a good moment as well. I've seen also on your gram swimming outside in freezing temperatures. Talk to me about that. It's very Wim Hof of you. Go for it. Explain what it and why you got into it.
Um, so fitness as something in general is an area and an industry that I never felt like I could fit in. I always thought that it was for one thing and one thing only. It was for washboard stomachs, it was for toning bodies, it was for losing weight, and it was competitive. That is what fitness and exercise was in my head. And when we launched Isle of Paradise, and Isle of Paradise was body inclusive because I wanted it to represent the men and women that I saw naked in my spray tan booth every single week. I had a moment of checking with myself and saying, if you're going to be this body confidence voice online and be this role model that you didn't have, then you are going to need to step up and do this responsibly. Body confidence isn't about eating 1,200 Pringles and drinking a bottle of wine and lying on the sofa. Body confidence is about respect, and it's about showing yourself love. And we know that we need to work out, but I just always told myself that, oh, I'll just skip meals instead of doing that workout because I'd rather skip lunch than go to the gym. So I started my exercise journey, got a personal trainer, was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I have a negative approach to this. I don't want to weigh myself. I don't want to measure myself. I'm not aiming for goal weight. I just want to enjoy this. And from that moment, I've just been on this huge exploration and unveiling of exercise as a tool to improve my body confidence, to connect with myself away from screens, to have
Mm.
time for myself, but to also exercise makes me feel alive. It makes me feel sure, like sometimes I'm literally going to die because something's been so hard, but it makes me feel present. And my fiance and I left London. We moved out in August and we are recording now in January. And we moved to Kent by the sea. And I said to myself, I'm going to get into sea swimming. I'm going to be one of these people that
I'm
goes.
doing it.
And I people are really pro, like, people take it really seriously. There's clubs, there's, like, some people who go in barely no clothing, and it's like I mean, we're in winter right now, it's cold, but the feeling after you get out of the sea is indescribable. Like, it's such a rush, it's such a buzz. When you get in, oh my god, it
What
is
do you
like ice.
are you like the whole way, or have you been able to control that now? Because I don't know if I could do it.
A scene that I often replay in my head is Rose in Titanic when she goes down and has to climb on that skanky door. I'm like, be Rose, just go into the sea. And I have to walk in fast. Like, the outfit is it's beyond sexual. Like, there's just neoprene shoes, wetsuit, it's very unforgiving, gloves, swimming hat. Like, I just look like a walking Johnny. It's so embarrassing. But you just like go, get in. And then there's this whole trying to get changed under a towel on the beach with dogs running around. It's the most unglamorous thing ever. But afterwards, when you get in the car, you've got a hot coffee, your body is like thawing out. I just feel alive. I feel ready for anything. I'm like, if I can do that today, then I can call that person that I've been fearing that conversation. I can tackle that to-do list, and here I am. And I think there's something really great that COVID has taught many people is how amazing nature is and how underappreciated it was prior to the pandemic. And I think that, sea swimming for me is it's an appreciation of nature. And I think it's me subconsciously being grateful for being able to experience something like that.
I've been nodding so vehemently inside because you're right. I think we all kind of needed to travel to experience nature. Like we wanted to go places to experience beauty. And it's like, actually, it's all around us. You might have to hunt a little bit, but we can all access it. And wow, it's literally game changing and mind altering. The image of you in the water and also that feeling in the car bundled up, just I'm so intrigued. I just don't live near the sea and it feels like a really big task right now to get there, but definitely on my list to do.
Get
Um,
it on the goals. Get it on the
yeah,
goals. Even if you just do it once this year, even if you do it once. And the thing is, like, people ask me online, what do I need? What do I need to do it? You don't need anything. You just
not
need to
for
get
real
in. Like,
that year. Is that gear?
no, it makes it easier. I think if you're swimming in the winter, you do need a wetsuit.
Yeah,
But if you're going to do it in the summer, you don't. Like, just
just
roll
get
with it. It's all going to be fine. Just put it on your list and do it.
so you said you moved house. Are you from the area you moved to, or was it a total new opportunity, new vista, new everything for you?
Completely new. I am originally I'm from Yorkshire. My parents live in Nottinghamshire now. My partner is Dutch. Neither of us have family in Kent. Neither of us really know many people here, but we looked on a map and Kent was just a really easy halfway place between our parents because we'll be able to drive to the Netherlands. We did really want to move to Bristol, but flights, we were like, oh, every time we go, we'll have to get flights. We're moving further away from both of our parents. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um, so we're just on this adventure. And I think that one of the best things that we did was we didn't really overthink it. I think people can spend so much time overthinking huge change like that. Whereas we just kept saying yes. We kept saying yes, and houses fell through, and sometimes it didn't feel like we were making the right decision, but we got here, and both of us say all the time, we just couldn't go back to living in the city, like living in the
Really?
city. Yeah,
I
we couldn't go back. We're so happy.
It's really lovely to hear that because, you also mentioned earlier about how change for you is actually a good thing. Like, embrace change. It's there, it's happening. But like to consciously make a good change which can benefit your lives even though you don't know it might do that until you do it, feels quite fearful and keeps people not living in the moment and worrying and anxious. But you're a testament that it does work and it is good.
Well, a great resource to listen to is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's a great audiobook. I cannot remember who wrote it, but it's about fear is a natural instinct and it's a protective barrier that we as human beings do for ourselves to stop ourselves getting hurt or injured. But if you feel that fear and you say, this is only fear, well, like, what is the worst that's going to happen? And we would say it like, what's the worst that's going to happen? We move, we hate it, we sell the house, we move back, we lose a bit of money, but
Yeah.
that's it. So if that's the worst, yeah, but what's the gain? What's the gain here? And I think you have to, I think there's a lot about being honest with yourself, about thinking, what do I really want deep down? If I was in a confession box, if I was in therapy, if there was somebody outside of my realm that I could tell my inner thoughts to, what do I really want? And if you know deep down that it involves change, then it might be worth exploring. I think you only get one life. This is something that I say in
Yeah.
many interviews, is that if you think in life that at the end someone's going to go, so that was your dress rehearsal, now what I'm going to do is put you in your real outfit and we're going to do the whole thing again and you're going to get every opportunity again, so you ready, stage, curtain, go. It's not going to happen. So stop pretending that this is a dress rehearsal and start living it, because it's moving and it's not going to stop moving and the world's not going to keep turning. So just crack on.
That's such good advice. It's like, as I get like, duh, so obvious, but people don't think like that. Like
No.
next time, oh, I'll do it soon. All right, it's like just do it. Oh, good, they've moved to right behind me. Perfect. Um,
They're having their kitchen redone, aren't they?
like
I said granite.
no warning. Okay, so music, yes, agree. Banging, yes, get in there. Um, Now, food. I'm a foodie. I love food, and I love your series of what you're having for dinner, for tea, or I've paraphrased what you call it. Hilarious, just genius idea. But the way you react and become the personas is just fantastic. But food for you, what does it do for you? Does it fill you up, or is it a stressor? What is it?
I think it's boxes A to Z, really. Food for me has been all different areas of emotion. I think there's my mum used to be a home economics teacher, so we were brought up eating full meals, and cooking was just a huge part of our family life. It was never we never had ready meals. We just always had home cooked meals.
Scratch. Mm.
Um, and my grandma was half the side of my family are farmers, and so food in farming is there's lots of traditions, there's lots of country traditions, there's lots of spreads, like northern spreads, huge, like, tables just full of food, and food was about togetherness. But then, as somebody who had an eating disorder in my early 20s, food was actually the enemy, and I spent years counting calories and reading the back of food packets, and food became this just vacuous industry for me that I couldn't connect with. And I'd just walk down aisles trying to do a food shop in a supermarket, and I would leave with a pack of seaweed and cabbage, and that was it. And it it took a while for me to get back into my love of food. I actually flipped a coin when I was 22 years old at a party. I was drunk. I flipped a coin, it landed on tails, and I booked a one-way ticket to Australia. I quit my job and I moved to Australia, with literally no money, one bag. That was it.
I can't
And
believe this.
yeah, I just put it out to the universe. I was like, fuck it. If this lands on tails, I'm going. And Australia was huge for me in terms of food. I was recovering from an eating disorder. I was just starting to see that food was not the enemy, that food is fun. And Australians love food. They have cafe culture, they eat outside, they're really into fresh,
Mm.
healthy ingredients, and they're not about, they're really, it's all farm to table. So the food is actually great quality. So I started getting into food when I was there. And when I moved back, when I lived in London, I said, I'm going to cook one new recipe every single week. That was a New Year's resolution.
Wait,
And
that's a big task. So 52 new things, untried.
52 new things, one every week. And so whenever I did my food shop, there was one new recipe on there and I'd give it a go. And I literally, like, I could not cook. I was just trying. And like, it's not like I did cooking at school. I had no cookery lessons. My mum actually never taught us to cook. I think maybe I picked stuff up from looking, but I think for her, it was just easier to do it.
Just quickly get it
Um,
done. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, shut up, just let me cook.
Yeah.
But actually now, cooking is, it's like if you ride a bike or you're driving a car, your brain just switches into this auto state. And when I'm cooking, that's what happens now. So it's, I feel creative because I can research flavors and I can try new things and I can kind of wing it as I'm going along. But also there's gratitude at the end of it from having a great meal and from feeding other people. And then also there's just like this lovely sense of nurturing my body and knowing what I'm putting into my body and feeling warmth from the inside. My mum always said, and my grandma always said, if you cook with love, the meal will be great. And I think it is the soundest advice if you've never cooked before. Whatever you cook, just cook with love. Cooking is just science. All it is timing and heat and science, and just put some love into it, and it will always work out. Le Creuset. That's all I'm going to say. You won't look back.
Creuset, that's all I'm gonna say. Heavy though, very heavy. All those pots and
Great for the tricep dips.
pans. Yeah. A few things on this because you say such insightful things. So what I'm hearing for you, this isn't therapy, but it's just what I'm bringing is like a meditation for you almost, it seems like it keeps you in a
Absolutely.
real meditative, like lovely state. And there's a great book called, well, it's a Spanish book, but it's translated called Como Agua para Chocolate, which is literally all about all her emotions she puts in her cooking. And then the people eating it experience the emotions she was feeling at the time. So when she's so in love, literally people are eating it and then making out with each other because they're consumed by love or grief or sadness or whatever the emotion is. So I think, I mean, obviously that's a book, but that is so spot on. I think you're right. If you're angry and bitter, the food ain't gonna taste nearly as delicious. So I love that the women in your family are very insightful. Um, and so what is your favorite dish to cook? And so again, like if you're having a bad day, could that be like, oh, I'm just gonna make dinner, like a good switch off moment for you?
Yeah,
Would that be
and it,
something you do?
yeah, definitely. And I think there are times when, it will hit 5:30 and I'm like, do you know what? I'm just gonna go peel a carrot. This just needs to get this needs to get started. And I'm not saying I'm cooking three-course meals every night. I physically don't think I could do that. I've cooked every night since March. I think like
You cook then. I
I'm the
mean,
cook. I'm the cook. Yeah. Um, so I think there's an
it's
element of
great
going,
for
okay,
you.
what, yeah,
Does
what,
he
oh
like it?
yeah.
Okay,
No,
good
he
for you.
loves it. He loves it.
Good. It's not
Um,
like, it's not your best effort. That would kill me.
Literally, my fiance Dutch is the most amazing. Every meal he rates as a 12 out of 10. He's like, this is unbelievable. And I'm like, this is the dream. I'm cooking for someone who appreciates it. But yeah, it is the way that I switch off, and it's a way that I try and disconnect. And I think that's why I love doing What Are You Having for Tea on Instagram, because it just was born out of curiosity of me standing at the fridge and going, oh, what am I going to make? And it just being this togetherness and this virtual community that's coming together and talking about what they're eating on a Thursday night for tea. And I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful. I think it's this great, I think we need something like that. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing.
Is it? Well, it's a Thursday today, so what are you having for tea tonight?
We are playing veggie roulette. So this is something that I learned on What You're Having for Tea. People say I'm playing fridge roulette, and it's when you open it up, you've got no plans, you just hope for the best. So we've got a lot of vegetables that need to be consumed. So I think I'll do like a big stew kind of thing.
I feel like you definitely live in the moment. You actually probably more than most live in the moment all the time because you probably bring yourself back often.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess, want to know just in terms of like your career, is there ever a way that it tumbles and spirals and you stress about your brand or the impact or whatever? And how do you then be like, let's just bring it back? What would you do in a kind of professional capacity?
So obviously, Isle of Paradise is, I mean, not obviously, but to me, it is an absolute beast. It's a beast of a brand. It exploded almost overnight, and it was this huge roller coaster to be on in the beauty industry. And I would go to these events, and people would say, "Oh my God, Isle of Paradise! It's so amazing!" And that was actually a lot of pressure to be under on yourself and go, "Oh my God, I've got to keep this going. I've got to keep this. I can't take my foot off the gas." Um, in the early days, it was really stressful. It was consuming. I think there are things that people don't see, like you just live on aeroplanes, you are just traveling 24/7, you are on calls all the time. Um, but then it kind of finds its rhythm and it's all good. And then you get other brands that will copy, and people take messages, and you see it trickling through. But whenever whenever we have really, really stressful days, my business partner and I and all of the team, we say, you know what? It's just fake tan. This is just fake tan. Like, let's just take a second. We are not neuroscientists. We are not like doing huge jobs. This is just fake tan. This is fun. Let's have fun with it. And we take a breather. I think that we're very honest with ourselves as well. Fake tan isn't going to change the world, but you might if you're wearing fake tan and you feel like the best version of yourself. And I always remind myself, like, why are we doing this? My business partner always says to me, but why? What's the point? What's the purpose? Why are we doing what we're doing? And for us, it's, well, we're doing this to make people feel more confident in their bodies, and we're doing this to make tanning and to make beauty fun and approachable and easy. And that's what our messaging is about. So I think if you're ever having a hard time at work, if you're ever questioning something, if you've got your own business and you're questioning, always go back to why you started this in the first place. Who are the people that are engaging in your services, engaging in your products, and how are you connecting with them? And actually, what you will see as a huge problem in your day, most people won't even notice that it's even there. Your mountain will be another person's small bump. And I think, don't stress about things. Just take a breather, remind yourself why, and remember that it's just a job, it's just work. There are so many other things going on in life. And as long as you're enjoying what you're doing and you have passion for what you're doing, then keep going for it.
It's great advice, Jules. Okay, how do we wrap this up? Well, I ask my guests, what is a quote or a phrase or a mantra or a saying that you live by?
For me, this is something that I have repeated to myself over and over again, whether it's in quotes, whether it's what I say to other people. And I also say it to myself whenever I'm feeling down or lost or just not in the right frame of mind. And it's, life is too short to hate how you look. Now, this can be when you're clothes shopping, this can be when you're buying beauty, this can be just when you look in the mirror. If you're feeling a little bit insecure, babe, no one's going to talk about how you look in 100 years. No one's even going to remember. The only person that's caring really about how you look is yourself. And when you leave a room, nobody talks about your appearance. Everybody talks about your personality. So just remember that life is way too short to hate how you look.
That's beautiful words and something I think we should all be taking with us. Jules, thank you. Thank you for being in my moment and for living in the moment. And I really appreciate you coming on today.
So thank you for having me.